Boom. Hello, we're live. What's going on? Chance, what's up? Hey, I'm excited to be live tonight, Sunday evening. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Give a second here while y'all file in. Kyle here from Tippecanoe Herbs. I'm going to be presenting tonight about some herbs of cancer. I just like talking about plants. It's cancer season. I just needed an excuse to share what I love, and that's talking about plants and a context for them. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's see, how's the audio coming through? Hopefully it's good. Right on. I got a presentation here. Let's see. Just want to say, while y'all are filing in, happy 4th of July that's passed. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. It was awesome in our household. I'm currently in our basement, and right above my head is the kitchen, where I have a very stompy little one. So if it sounds like furniture is moving somewhere in the room, that's what's going to happen. 4th of July it was awesome. 4th of July happening right in cancer season, I think is pretty interesting too, because cancer has a lot to do with home, things like that. And of course, this is the home of the brave, land of the free. We're celebrating it. We claim it again. And anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to change my view here. How about that? Does that look good? How about that? Right on. So, herbs for cancer. Just going to try to find a way to move through these slides. There we go. Yeah, nice. Is Gabe in the chat? Don't know. Hope so. Hope he shows up. Alrighty. So, here we go. Support for the channel. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in tonight. Really appreciate your attention. Really appreciate you as an audience. I've make lots and lots of herbal medicine, tons, so much that I'm always stocking up on all kinds of stuff. But when it's the season of the zodiac, I make these special formulations, and that is extremely fun for me. Really, really. It's greetings, y'all. Greetings. I just love being inspired by the season and taking thoughtful time to make some of the medicines. So we have a cancer gift box, zodiac cancer gift box. It includes some of the stuff. I'm going to go through all that at the end. I do herb classes. Here's one for free. And if this is something that you enjoy, then other ways to support herbal consultations. I do herbal biofield tunings, which have been awesome. Really a great way of assessing this whole paradigm of biofield tuning. I'll get into that as we go a little bit more. I always have fun. Every session, there's some amazing synchronicities. So greetings to Jen as well. Jennifer. All right, let's see here. So some key words for our sign tonight: domestic, home, protection. And when I hear the word domestic sometimes, because I live in the city, it's not always like the word that comes to mind, like a domesticated animal or domestic, domicile setting. Sometimes it's a shortened form of domestic abuse. That's also in, something that would be applicable to this sign as well. Protection, right? Hard outer layer. This is what cancer is. It's like the crab. It's got the hard outer layer. You break open the claw and you suck out that soft inner yummy meat. Emotion, as in motion, energy in motion. And the motion that is ruled by the moon. Scarab, which is almost like an anagram for crabs. It's like crabs. Scar, scab, boxing, box in, pinch, punch. Hey, pinch punch is the name of the tea that I made for the cancer box. And it's multiple plays on words because it's astringent, so it's got this pinchiness flavor, and it is hibiscusy, so it's kind of like a cold tea punch. So how about that? Mood, that's like moon. Dogs, tide, as in tying up something too. Weaving, the act of weaving bark or weaving reeds together, or what we're going to do tonight, and weave ourselves a show. Alrighty. Kabir's in the house. What's up, dude? The parts of the body, the Mazzaroth, that Cancer rules. The rib cage, the breast. We're going to be talking about this a lot tonight. The stomach, pericardium of the heart, and pleura. So for those ones right there, just think of like how something can be watery and protected, like a vessel, like the chalice. So the stomach, without the rulership of Cancer, the stomach acid would just pour all over the body and we would melt from the inside out like a crazy movie. The pericardium of the heart, without this covering surrounding of the heart, it would just pump blood all over the place like a crazy movie. Without rib cage, we would just be like floating blobs of goo. So we have to have this relationship between stiffness, protection, and also there's that watery element that it holds. The pleura is the lining that holds the lungs, another kind of watery organ. I like to think that the fascia is ruled almost entirely by Cancer. And there's not, I don't see this word coming up a lot in my studies of astrological anatomy. I think it's kind of new on the scene, really, of importance to those of biology and anatomy. But the fascia is the connective tissue that holds everything in. So the best way to describe it would be like if you peel an orange, the reason why orange juice doesn't just like flop out all over your hands is because there's that white layer that holds those orange slices together. That white layer would be akin to the fascia, which is, excuse me, like the fibrous tissue that holds in the organs. Fascia is a type of structured water. It is highly structured. And I really think that it makes a lot of sense in Cancer because you find the structure aspect across the zodiac in Capricorn, and how it has Capricorn rules our bones and our hardened structures, and the fascia is more of the flexibility and the ability to move that hard structure around. Mucosal membranes, definitely in part shared with some of those other water signs. I would say in particular the ones of the lungs that are making me feel like I think I'm conjuring up some Cancerian anatomy in my own body right now. The temples of the head. This is in physiognomy, one of the ways that we could tell that Cancer is, like that I could tell somebody is ruled by the sign of Cancer, is because they have big temples of their head, and the ability to like inflate their temples. It almost looks like the temples like get larger, like a side of the moon or something, like the face of the moon. The going back a sign to Gemini. Geminis move their hands a lot. They talk a lot with their hands open and out like this. Trump's a Gemini. He's always moving his hands around like this. He doesn't show the back of his hands. He shows you the front of his hands that are open. And that's, but however, the crab is closed or closed fist, and the back of the hands, like showing you the back of the hands. So Mike Tyson, famous Cancer boxer. So it's all about punchiness, punchy elbows, these types of things. Yeah, Geminis. Yeah. They're Italian, eh? Way, Gemini. It's my brother. Hey, a gaster. I think one of the things that I'm really interested in astrology and astroherbalism in general is finding the foundation of my herbalism and the way that I understand herbalism as a direct correspondence to the heavens. and what's going on above. And I think that in a lot of tropical astrology, it's just good enough to have the archetypes and the signs. And one of the things I really appreciate about sidereal astrology is that it looks up at the stars. And I think that, one of the things that I like to do is kind of bring them both together. And I'm always working on how I can rectify the difference between that. But I think it's really important to consider here. So here on the screen, we see one of the major decans, or decans, I should say. I learned how to say it as decans, I guess, because I read it and was corrected once. But you see Ursa Major up there at the top of the apex of this triangle. And then this is a really awesome way to find these stars. Okay. So you follow that handle down, and then the star that you're going to find following that handle down is Pollux, which rhymes with bollocks. And that's one of the twins of Gemini. That's him and Castor hanging out. They got their arms around each other. They got their hands open. Hey, it's my brother. Hey, Castora. Hey, Apollo. I don't know how you say it in Italian. But anyway, if you follow that line over across, the next big star that you're going to see is the heart of the lion. That's Regulus. And that's Leo. So in between Gemini and Leo is the sign of Cancer. And this is a really hard constellation to find. The best way, in my opinion, to find it is to look for this beehive cluster, which is just a ton of stars, basically, like kind of crammed in the sky, right in between these points right here. And then south of the beehive cluster or Cancer, we would have Argo Navis, which is the third minor decan, and the first two are Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And that brings me to our first herb, lemon balm. You see, in the beehive cluster, the beehives, that part of the sky was maybe astrotheologically connected to the Melissae. The Melissae were the bee nymphs, the oracular bee nymphs, that when Apollo took over and slayed Python and took over the sacred space, which we call the Delphi now. He's just like set up his temple. He put up a bay leaf shelter, and declared the bay tree sacred. And there's a whole story about that, which we'll cover maybe next time in Leo. But now he's just hanging out, and he's like, what am I going to do? And he befriends the oracular bee nymphs, which are capable of divining and telling the future. And they're the ones that taught Apollo this art of divination. They were called the Melissae. And lemon balm is the officinalis of that, in reference to the Melissae, the bee nymphs. So Melissa is a reference to bees. And this is lemon balm. It's not bee balm. There's another plant called bee balm, which I call Monarda. And that's, to me, square in the sign of Gemini, as with a lot of mints. So this is why I introduced this one first, because it's also a member of the mint family. But, and I'm sorry if you can hear that, my baby crying upstairs, but that's all right. He's had a rough day. Lots of fireworks this weekend. But I put most of the mints in Gemini, and the reason why is because of the word mint. And as in M-I-N-T, mental. And I think that there's a really good relationship with the nervous system and communication and the lungs with a lot of the mints. But lemon balm, to me, is a great representative of Cancer, because Cancer occurs at the apex of the sun. It's not a solar ruled sign, but it is definitely sunny. There's a lot of sunshine, and it's definitely ruled by the moon. Okay. I think that lemon balm is a great case for the, what's it called? When Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. So it's ruled by the moon, and it exalts Jupiter. So Jupiter, if you look at some of these old books that are herbal books, especially authors like Nicholas Culpeper, who everyone cites. Nicholas Culpeper wrote his Culpeper's Herbal in like 1600s. And one of the reasons why everyone cites him is because he was the first English-speaking dude, really, to write in English about astrological herbalism. And so there's a lot of appeal to Culpeper's work. And so when Culpeper says that it's ruled by Jupiter, then it's like, oh, okay. A lot of people will either agree with that as just an appeal to, oh, somebody else said it and figured it out for us, or disagree with it in the case of, what I do a lot, which is, wait a minute, I don't understand how. So one of the things that I grieve about Culpeper's Herbal, which I think is great, I think it's fantastic, actually. One of the things I love about Culpeper's Herbal is that he wrote this in like 1615, 1616, something like that, in London, in between the king just got beheaded, and it was kind of like a lot of anarchy going on, and he was able to write something that was kind of like only the doctors and the physicians wanted their class to know. So he kind of brought this information to the masses. And in his Herbal, he talks a lot about like the places where you can find these plants. So he says like outside of the stable at Buckingham Palace, if you go to like the left side of the western corner of the building, you could find this patch of whatever there. I think that's so cool. Obviously, that's way different now. It's not like a map anymore. But I think that's totally righteous, is to like kind of give away your fishing holes, right? And just for the people. And also at the time, like he had wrote it, he had like moved to the outskirts of London, so he was just writing it to help people find these things. One of the things that I don't like about Culpeper's Herbal is that he doesn't explain how he arrived at the conclusions. So he's talking about lemon balm as a plant of Jupiter. The end. It's a plant of Jupiter. The end. And some of them make a lot of sense, but other ones don't. So one of the things I like to do is make sense of that, explain how my reasoning, my rationale as to why I categorize the herbs that we're going to talk about today in the sign of Cancer, so that you can, have that same reasoning and rationale locked and loaded when you are applying this to yourself, and then also maybe even come up with your own creative ways. And so that it's instead of it being an appeal to my authority on the subject, because I am one. So lemon balm how is lemon balm an herb of Jupiter? Well, Jupiter is all about abundance. So if you've ever grown lemon balm before, you know what I'm talking about. It just like, boom, it just gets really big, and then it spreads out, and it just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving. Jupiter is about a little bit of warmth, not too much warmth like the sun, not spicy and super invigorating, but warming. And one of the ways that I work with lemon balm a lot is for that purpose. To me, I think Culpeper, one of the things that he wrote about lemon balm is that it dispels the melancholic vapors of the heart. Oh, I love that. I love the way that that to me is so poetic, in that somebody feels gloomy. They've been in London all summer. They're like, I need the sun. It's just, it just makes me feel it's such a drag being here. So people who are prone to those melancholic vapors of the heart. I think that makes a lot of sense in the times of year where it's not sunny. So we could say across the zodiac over in Capricorn, where we can need a little bit of that herbal sunshine. There's herbs of Leo that are very solar, that have that really invigorating quality to them as nervines. They really make you feel like shining and radiating. Whereas lemon balm is like the way that the sun evaporates a cloud of fog. Like you just feel kind of foggy, have a hard time focusing. That's what I really love lemon balm for, is its ability to bring some clarity when otherwise it's hard to focus. When I was studying Ayurveda, I had a really hard time focusing. I was studying for my exams and everything like that. And it was the summertime, and I would just go out to the garden, and I would harvest a bunch of lemon balm, and I would make pesto and have that for like, with a little bit of noodles or something like that. And then I felt like just by consuming lemon balm was a great way of helping with focus. Nowadays, I like to work with lemon balm for anytime anyone says they're talking about something that I would construe as like those melancholic vapors, where they just feel gloomy and they have a hard time focusing, or they feel foggy minded. And that it's relaxing. It's relaxing to an overstimulated mind, and it is sunny and solar. It's very, very yummy. It is extremely, extremely good as food, especially pesto. So I'd like that. What else could I say about lemon balm? Here's where I'd like to make a correction about maybe some things I've said a long time ago before my paradigm shifted on the germ. And that is, I used to say, because it's a lot of herbalists say this, that lemon balm, especially when it's mixed with St. John's wort, is one of the best herbal remedies for chickenpox and herpes and shingles, which are all described as the same virus, quote unquote, so-called virus, I guess you could say. And so in my exploration of this paradigm, I started, I eventually reached the point where asking a lot of questions and sending a lot of Freedom of Information hacks and researching and looking at the methodology and concluding that they have never proven to this existence of a virus. Why don't they say microscopic flying Sasquatch? I mean, it's made up. It's just the same thing, right? And there's never been an independent variable to describe microscopic flying Sasquatch coming into your body and causing lesions. So what the heck? How is it that people get when they're like, when I was a kid, I remember one of the fun memories I had was going to my friend's house. Hey, why are you bringing me to this friend's house? I've never been to his house. He's got really cool Legos. He's got really cool video games. We don't have those. Okay, time's up, guys. Me and my brother and my sister. Well, and then we come home and then we get freaking chicken pox. And that was kind of fun, right? The whole house, like, all get together. Everyone's got calamine lotion and everything like that. So how do people get shared toxicity if there's no such thing as a microscopic flying Sasquatch? Well, I mean, is it definitely absurd to think that when I yawn and there's some sort of respiratory virus that's creating my yawn, and by yawning in a room, the respiratory virus leaves my mouth and goes into somebody else's mouth and infects them and makes them yawn? Obviously, that's absurd, right? But we're showing signs of contagion, right, in these instances. So how does lemon balm actually help people with, let's just say, a breakout on their skin, a little lesions on their skin, and a fever and itchiness and a rash that's really characteristic of what we could call chickenpox or shingles or herpes? Well, in the model of German New Medicine, we could say that there's a conflict going on. We could say that for whatever reason, in the case of herpes, somebody had a conflict, whether they were sexually active with somebody and that they didn't want to be, or they were sexually active with somebody and they didn't want to be taken away from that. And it creates a lesion of conflict. In other cases, we could say that there's just a proximity of the body detoxing. It's just like all of a sudden my dog starts stretching. And I say, that seems like a good idea. I'm going to start stretching too. It feels good. Our bodies are just kind of wired to be sympathetic and run certain programs and certain frequencies. And what lemon balm does is it works on the nervous system. It doesn't have antiviral qualities. It has, I would say, I don't even like saying antiseptic qualities, because I don't actually think that germs are bad at all. I think that it has it changes the way that our body, the terrain of our body is formed and shaped, and it allows whatever detoxification to express itself better. in the case of lemon balm, combined with St. John's wort, that is through the nervous system. So any nervousness or any underlying, let's just say like subconscious nervousness about a subject that might be going on, I think it really helps alleviate that. So here's to Apollo and the Melissae and the bees and the love of lemon balm. Moving on. That was one of my first herbs that I fell in love with as an herbalist because I was learning about it in my studies, and I really felt like it clicked with me. The cabbage, Brassica oleracea. This became really popular in our household. All right, I got to tell you, there is nothing better for breast health, for nursing. Anybody who's nursing or about to nurse out there, get yourself a cabbage, keep it in the refrigerator. They last in the refrigerator for like 6 months. Okay. Whenever my wife was having the first signs of mastitis, which is inflammation, we just say inflammation of the breast for whatever reason, the ducts get clogged, there's a lack of flow, there's a lack of nursing. She slept on it wrong, she wore a bra too long. Whatever the reason is, there's many things that can be done, but without fail, taking a cabbage, which looks like the breast, by the way, if you were to look at a breast in a like a what was it called, like a see-through breast or something like that, it would have this big old lymphatic channel that comes out to the center, and they would have all these lymphatic ducts and everything like that moving. And the cabbage leaf is like a farmer's mermaid bra or something like that. She could just like put them right over that and put her bra on and let that. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to steam it. You don't have to slap it. You just put a cabbage leaf on your chest, and this is what cabbages do. All mustards, by the way, all of the brassica do. They all have this secret way of decongesting the mucous membranes in the chest topically. So in Aries, one of the herbs that I like to talk about in our Herb of the Week in Aries is garlic mustard, and how you can take garlic mustard, which is another relative of this plant, and really spicy, and you can crush that plant up and you can make a poultice of it and put it on your chest, and that's really good for coughing and stuck mucus, especially in the springtime. That's when it's growing, that's when it's showing. And at the farmer's market right now, if you go get your food at the farmer's market and things that are in season, you're going to find that they are harvesting the cabbages right now. I think that's also relevant and a good clue about herbs for cancer. So yeah, without fail, one of the best herbs for any type of mastitis. I think, and I was like, let's make sure that we have a cabbage leaf in the refrigerator. Brassica oleracea is the same. So cabbage is the same thing. There's this wild cabbage out here, and they made this cultivar, and they turned it into cauliflower and kale and broccoli and kohlrabi and Brussels sprouts. It's all the same plant. They're all just like a Doberman Pinscher and a pug and a Chihuahua and a Great Mastiff are all like the same thing. They're just kind of bred for different purposes. They're all the same genetic, dog after all. And if you put them together in a couple generations, they'll probably turn back into some sort of coyote looking thing, which is the one that's on the left here. That's that wild cabbage, which has that wildness to it, more of that spicy mustard flavor. I think that all of these would make really great examples of herbs for cancer. I mean, they definitely have that cauliflower does have that lunar brain-like look to it. I didn't mention this in the Maseroth, but the not just I wouldn't say the temples also with the being ruled by cancer, but even the stuff that holds in our brain, like the fluid, our quote unquote blood-brain barrier, for lack of a better word, that holds the brain in. And so, all that stuff, like the way that a walnut shell or walnut hull holds in the walnut. I think walnuts might be a good case for this presentation. I didn't put them on here. I did put in coconut. I'm drinking some coconut water right now, actually. Costco coconut water. The other day, went out and got some coconuts, like actual coconuts. Boom, opened them up with a knife, drank the water out of them. It was so freaking good. It's so sweet. Oh my gosh. Did you know that the water that's inside of a coconut is called endosperm? And so that's just like the sperm of the plant. And so when I learned that, I was like, oh, okay, huh. Interesting. So I took this coconut that we chopped up and I put it into my still, which is what I use to make my hydrosols. And I threw that in there with some lemon balm and I made this amazing hydrosol. I combined that with some rose and peony and some aloe. And that is the sun-kissed hydrating mist that I put in my cancer box. And it's freaking awesome. So cooling. So the coconut, I mean, doesn't that, it looks like the moon. It kind of looks like the moon. Looks like the thing that holds in the brain, I guess you could say. This is 2 parts of the coconut. There's also the big old husk that it falls off of. And one of the cool things about coconut, one of the things that I love about coconut is that it is ruled by it, or like it grows by the tides, just like the moon. You know, the moon creates the tides, allegedly, or something, and it pulls the ocean into one direction or another. And so there's the coconut tree sitting over there on the island. It's hanging off the island just a little bit. The tide brings that water up right up to its fibrous roots, drops coconut into the ocean, and off it goes and it sails. And this is how the coconut has spread around the world through the ocean. I think that's so cool. So it's got this traveling through the water, hardness, water, containing water. It makes a vessel for water. And it's good brain food. It's good for the mood. I consume coconut every day. I'll take some coconut oil. I'll put it in my coffee. I'll take some coconut milk, I guess it's called. Put that in my coffee as well. Just get it nice and coconutty. Got my coconut water to hydrate me in the summertime. Really, really nice plant for, overall health. Coconut oil, topically, not a fan of that myself when I'm making preparations or herbal stuff. One of the reasons why is because it really traps a lot of moisture underneath it, which is good for certain skins, like baby skins. But it's not so good for a lot of other skins. It can actually make people feel a little bit more hotter and a little bit more aggravated. And when it's applied topically. But this is the botanical that I use for my baby salve. And the reason why is because it's non-allergenic. So any baby can use it and it's really appropriate as a nice delivery for bringing the medicine of the herbs into it and also imparting them outwards. Coconut. Yeah, put the lime in the coconut. What else could I say about coconut? It's not like a true tree. It's like a grass. It's like a more closely related to grass than a tree. These aren't called nuts, actually. They're called drupes. And the word cocoa is a Polynesian word for skull. So it looks like a skull, really popular souvenir item is that like skull monkey coconut thing. And our guy, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Never mind. So that's where we get the botanical name. That's where we get the name cocoa nut. It's not actually a nut after all. Linden. Oh my goodness. The linden in bloom right now is just magnificent. So magnificent. So it just intoxicating at this time of the night. Takes me away. Walking down the street, in my town, there's a lot of ornamental linden trees planted around the streets, and they escape and they grow themselves as well. And it's the flower of this tree that opens up right about now. And as it opens, it has this heavenly, lunar-like scent. And I say lunar because it's not striking. It's very intoxicating. It changes your mood instantly as soon as you smell it. And it's not pointed. Like when you smell the linden, it's because it's blowing in on a breeze from the trees above. And it just kind of like wafts your nose. Whereas other plants, you can put your nose is kind of typically, most people's noses are, unless you're a pug, are facing downwards. So they're aiming their noses downwards, whereas the linden just kind of creeps in. Gosh, I love it. Of that topic, Rudolf Steiner, the Austrian mystic, said that the walnut tree, which I talked about briefly, and the linden tree, when planted near graveyards, reduce the astral influences. So what the heck does that mean, Rudolf Steiner? Okay. Astrality is the animal and decay kind of energy. Astrality rules animals have the ability to reach the apex of astrality. Plants that dabble into that energy from the etheric into the astrality are the reason why they're poisonous. And us humans, we're capable of achieving the mental and even the Buddhic forms of consciousness, I guess you could say, the energy movement, according to Rudolf Steiner and his model. So physicality being the first, and that rules the minerals. Etheric being the next, and that rules the plants. Astrality, which I also like to think of as fight or flight. So astrality is the fight or flight. It's the sympathetic response. It's the go, 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 and leading to burnout. That's the manifestation of astrality in our body as well. Or we could say animal sense. And so with all of that in mind, when I heard that it like reduces the impact of the astrality or the decaying energy that comes from a graveyard that would have a negative influence on life. Well, this is, from Rudolf Steiner's point of view is, if you live too close to a graveyard, you might as well, plant some linden trees and walnut trees to mitigate and shift those invisible energies. And I'm not talking about, radio frequencies or anything like that. We're talking about like this cosmic energy that comes from decaying bodies in the ground. So when I heard that, and I have my own way of thinking about the astral sphere as being related to the animal response or being related to the fight or flight mode, I instantly thought of linden being a really great herb for shifting the fight or flight mode into a rest and digest phase. And certainly that's what happens when you smell it. You really become like relaxed and aware and present, but also kind of taken away. It's lovely. This time of year is just fantastic. One of the things that I think about in a more of a green speak way of looking at this plant is that the flower comes up and it kind of like bursts like a firework, like the 4th of July. That's not really green speak, but it's fun, kind of fun. But the green speak that I'm talking about is there's that, and it's connected to this other piece, which is also called the flower, which looks like a little leaf. And you can see in this picture here, there's the flower, which is obviously the flower, and then there's this like kind of lightish green leaf, and then behind that is the bigger leaf of the tree. That lightish green leaf, it looks like a canoe. It looks like a boat. That's the Argo Navis. That's the ship. That's the Ark. That's the minor decan of Cancer. Coming to take us away and offer us a branch of olive or the golden fleece. This is definitely a world tree in my world tree series. I'll get to that right in a second. Actually, before I go on, I want to talk about the way that linden flower helps with the parts of the body that are ruled by Cancer. So I think linden flower is an excellent one for the lungs, for changing the mucosal lining, I should say, for changing the restructuring the mucus in the lungs. It is an anti-inflammatory in that way. So when people talk about it being like an antiseptic, what it's really doing is that it's just making our method of elimination or the terrain of our mucosal tissues in the lungs less hospitable for, toxicity, things like that. When I was in a city called Bari. It's in Italy. And all around this city, there are the walls, the old Roman walls, and they're just like kind of put down to about knee level so that you can just like sit on them as benches. And they say, like in Latin still, in some of the plaques, you could see that it says like Rome that way, basically, as a rough translation. It's really cool. But all along these walls are some ancient linden trees. And I don't think that they're the original Roman ones, because this tree grows big quickly and then it dies. But I do think that they are continuations of trees that had been there before. And so looking into the legends of some of this, I discovered that in Roman culture, in Germanic culture, in a lot of European culture, they would plant the linden tree in the city square or close to the city square. And the reason why is because when you smell it, it actually has, it has that effect of changing the astrality or putting people back into a relaxed, sympathetic mode. It's almost like the city planners were like, look, we're going to do something. We're going to do some things. We don't want to get beheaded. We don't want our children to get beheaded. So let's plant some linden flowers or some linden trees in these places. So when the people and the masses gather and they're out with their pitchforks and stuff like that, and they're smelling these flowers, it actually has this way of changing the feeling in your heart. It really does. Additionally, I think that it speaks to the way that people can communicate with their tongues, that they want to speak sharply and speak the truth, but not have it feel like a dagger. And so I would recommend linden flower for anybody who has things that they want to get off their chest, this emotional built up Cancerian water that they want to speak, but they don't want it to come out as daggers. Another time in one of my classes, we did a mystery tea tasting where I make a tea of a plant and then everyone taste it, and nobody knows what it is, and everyone just describes what it is that they're feeling. And that's what came up a lot, was just the feeling of it's easy to speak, gladness, brightness. I love linden as the other ways that I like it too. The herbalists know it as linden. The botanists know it as tilia, which is a nice name, I think. I know people named tilia. And the arborist and the apiary people, the beekeepers, they call it basswood, which is short for basket wood, which is a weaving thing that you do with this plant. This plant, because it was formerly in the Malvaceae family, which is the marshmallow family. Marshmallow is slimy, it's mucilaginous, has all of these kind of qualities that linden does when you taste it. Floral, gooey, not too gooey though, just nice. And the bees will, if you're ever around it when it's blooming in the summertime, you could put your back against the tree and it's like a symphony of bees. They're just like humming and buzzing all around this tree. But you could take the strips of the bark, and that is really weavable and moldable. And one of the things that reminds me about it for cancer is that this ability to have something that's soft, flexible, and then can retain its shape and be hardened again, and be a vessel, really like a basket, and to contain stuff, or like a house. Chance says mucilaginous is a great word, and he's playing Scrabble. I don't know if you still are. Totally. That would be a bingo plus, I think. It is a really good word. But for some reason, I don't think I've ever spelt it right. This is the in Germany, they revere this tree as a version of the world tree, especially in like Germanic and Nordic culture that share a lot of the same versions of deities, even similar to the Roman pantheon and everything like that too. 4 rules the oak. That's the hard one. That's the badass with its big old flexing branches, right? It just looks like the tree always just looks like it's just flexing. The oak does. The linden is soft. It's graceful. This is Freya's tree. It's the consort. It's the divine feminine of the world tree. And this is an example of what the Germans called Gerichtslind. Gerichtslind is the dancing tree. So they would dance around this tree, and this is where this is where the court would be. This is where the justice would be held. Again, along the same ideas with the Romans and keeping the peace and having this in the town center for keeping the peace, or also for letting people express themselves without the sharpness of their emotions. And for merriment and fun and dancing around. I think that's really cool. I love this idea of the world tree being danced around, being symbolically representing the monad, the symbol of the center of the village, where these orders would come from, where the mayor would say, where the market would be held, where the festivals are, those types of things. So that's Linden. I have plenty more to say about it, but I'm going to move on. Okay. Willow, another tree that I think is a really good example of something that you can weave with, basket making tree. One of the ways that you can identify willow is if you're up higher in a little bit of elevation, and you're like looking over the landscape. If you could see these lunar tinged leaves on the underside of the leaf is this like moonbeam green, and they sway in the wind and they actually make noise. The Greeks would say that's where the muses lived, in the sounds of the rustling leaves of the willow. Willow is the botanical name of willow. There's white willow, which is the one that we have in America. Everyone knows weeping willow. There's black willow, which they have over in Europe and stuff like that. The genus is Salix, and that is the same genus as aspen, which people call poplar. That's the same genus as cottonwood. And they all have a different relationship to water. They all suck up water, and so the willow grows closest to the water's edge. There's this old, Native American tale, which is Coyote. It starts with Coyote, who's the mercurial figure. He's the trickster. Coyote goes one day and he's looking for some eggs for the robin. So he goes up and he sees them and he's like, oh, cool. And he goes up to the top of this cottonwood tree. It's this massive cottonwood tree. It's so tall. And he goes up to the cottonwood tree and grabs these blue robin eggs. And as he's grabbing them, slips, falls down to the base of the tree. And when he hits the bottom of the ground, he just starts rolling. He's on a hill. And he rolls down and he rolls down until he goes boom, smack into a poplar tree. And he shakes his head off. Whoa, that was quite the fall. And as he shakes his head off, he gets a little dizzy again and hits the ground and just starts rolling. Keeps going down the hill. Boom, smack, right into a willow tree. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's been quite the fall and tumble. Shakes his head off, gets dizzy again, and then falls again. And the next thing that he runs into right from there is splash into the river. So that story demonstrates the degrees in which you would find these various salix plants. You would find the willows right next to the water. You would find the poplars a little bit higher, or the aspen a little bit higher, and you would find the cottonwoods at the top of the hill, close to water. Cottonwoods will always grow close to water, but poplars will grow closer, and willows will grow closest. So if you're up at elevation and you see those lunar tinged moving around in the wind from a distance, you'll know that's where some water is over there. Make your way that way. Salix is where we get the word salicin, and salicin is where we get the word That's a compound that's in this plant. It's in the symphony of this plant, it is the cello, right? Salicin is the cello in this entire symphony orchestra. Well, cello's great and all, but there's parts of the piece that require the brass to come out, or the drums, the timpani, right? That's why we have this symphony of compounds. But the materialist of our time, they say, you know what? No, I think that, we'll just take the cello. Let's just take the cello. So they take the cello, which is the salicins, and they synthesize them a little bit more, and they turn that into acetylsalicylic acid, which is what we call aspirin now. Aspirin was derived originally from the traditional use of willow bark as a non-specific anti-inflammatory, something that would thin the blood and help with alleviate pain. And nowadays, there's a lot of other compounds in the bark of willow that help with the ability to digest this compound, which is hard on the stomach, and to it's a symphony, right? But that's why aspirin would be hard on your stomach, because it's just the cello. It's like, oh man, there's just so much cello in my stomach right now. Of course, it's great weaver though. Alrighty. Hello there. Aloha. This is aloe. I believe this one is Aloe barbadensis. Aloe vera would work. Vera means true. Vero, true in Latin. Definitely a Cancer plant, right? Look at this. It looks like a bunch of, to me, I see like crab, spiny, lobster-like appendages kind of coming out, bursting up of the soil, of the sandy soil. Man, it grows in this really, really difficult environment where you would like some water. And of course, the aloe, look at that. Bark is crab backwards. Boom. That's right. Nice one, Ashley. So yeah, aloe. This is a great plant for, everybody knows aloe at the 4th of July, right? Go out on the boat, go out in the canoe, get yourself sunburned, come home. What are you going to do? You're going to put some aloe on it. Ever since we're little kids, we're working with aloe for our lobster skin. Get lobsterfied. It's the antidote for that. It holds in. So if you ever taken an aloe leaf and cut it up, you could see on the inside there's like this watery goo. And the best way to work with that is to take almost like you're filleting a fish. So you cut away this harder exterior skin, and you want to scoop out that goo, and take that goo and you put it into like maybe a blender and add some little, purified water, and you blend it up, and that's how you can make some homemade aloe juice that you could drink. Now, aloe juice that you drink is going to do the same thing on the inside of your body that the aloe gel is going to do on the outside. It's going to soothe and cool hot inflammation. So what does hot inflammation feel like in the inside and the mucous membranes of our body? It could feel like ulcerative colitis. It could feel like all kinds of hot, inflamed digestive qualities, including diarrhea. It could feel like people what they might call autoimmune conditions, and the reason why is because their gut is kind of leaking and they feel like something is getting out and attacking. Well, what would you do if your gut is leaking? You want to make it you'd want to make that structure a little bit more hospitable. If you have flies coming into your house, put up walls, you put up a screen. This is all Cancerian ideas, is that, we're fortifying our home. And the same could be said about the inside of our body. We're kind of like a donut in a physical form. Like the inside of our body is like the donut. All of that outer layer of the donut is also the same as the inner layer of the donut, from its shape. And then when you bite into it, it's a different substance. It feels like a different, texture altogether. And that's the same idea with the inside of our guts. They're very similar to the outside of our skin as well. So aloe is great for that. I thought I had more to say about aloe. Maybe another time. Hey there, Sherry. What's going on? Glad you're joining us here on a Sunday. This is cardamom. You know, in green speak, cardamom. What does Cancer rule? Rules not the heart muscle, it rules the pericardium. Cancer is oftentimes described as the mother of the zodiac. Taurus is the maiden, Cancer is the mother, it's the nurturer, it's the one that's holding the child to her breast and nourishing it. It is the home maker. So cardamom, green speak, I interpret as heart, mom heart. And and you could put that into emoji, like a little heart and the mom. Elitaria is like a Hindu word that's been Latinized. And the Hindu word is elam, E-L-A-M, elam. I think that's a pretty interesting word, but that means grass. This is like a sideways view of cardamom flower. Cardamom is it's like the cool cousin of ginger. Ginger and cardamom are really closely related. Ginger is the one that's always getting into trouble. It's hot, it's spicy, it's always breaking the windows. It's always, coming home with a bunch of black eyes and stuff like that, and getting stitches, whatever. Okay, well, cardamom is the cool one. It's the one that's like, hey, maybe we should think that over. It's not as spicy. It's like a spice, but it has this coolness to it. It has this lunar comfort. So as a dipana, which means like activator of the digestive system, or in the Ayurvedic tradition, or in the Western herbalism, we would say carminative. Carminative means like it helps dispel gas. It helps dispel excess pressure through taking away tension and also enlivening the vital force in the stomach. Cardamom in a lot of Hindu traditions is called the queen of herbs. Definitely has this like feminine correspondence to it. One of the things that makes sense to me from cardamom's point of view is that if you ever get a cardamom pod, they need to be cracked open, just like a lobster has to be cracked open, just like a crab shell has to be cracked open. They look like little scarab beetles, and all the good stuff's inside. It's good on the outside too, but it's better when you crack it. So if you get cardamom pods and you don't have a mortar and pestle, just take a broad end of a knife and just like put it down and just smash it. A couple of those, throw that in with your sulfurito, and like when you're making or if you're making a tea, that's a really nice way of doing it. It is the third most expensive spice in the world. Do you want to guess what the first two are? The first one is saffron, which is basically just like the pollen. It's the stamen of a crocus. And in my anatomical herbs of the biofield, the crocus is the crown, and the which I'm working on, by the way. That'll be something that's a work in progress. But the second most expensive herb in the world is vanilla. Vanilla. Oh, I thought that meant boring. No, it means like I think vanilla could be better rebranded as essence of Madagascar orchid. Doesn't that sound sexy? Oh my God, that sounds so much sexier than vanilla or chocolate. How about Madagascar orchid, please? Yeah. A story, Aloe helping a client's internal bleeding. Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. I definitely I shared that in the herb of the week of last week. The herb of the week from the 4th of July was aloe. I recorded that a year ago, but yeah, aloe definitely helps with internal bleeding. Thanks for reminding me, Jenny. Okay. Cardamom out. Teasel. Here, okay, let me tell you a little bit about the biofield anatomy again too. In a second, I'll come back to that. This is teasel. Teasel is a really great description of this Cancer Capricorn axis. If it's hard, and it is for me, to remember 12 archetypes, maybe we could split it into 6. And the 6 axes of the zodiac. So Cancer, Capricorn axis. One plant that I think of that comes to mind for that, is elder. The elder flowers, like driving by the elder flowers that are in the field. I mean, it's just so big, looking like a moon. It's hard not to think about a moon when you see an elder tree in flower. It's just got these huge lunar creamy flowers. That's definitely a Capricorn herb, and we're going to come back to that in Capricorn. And the reason why is because it's elder, it's old, it's the old time of the year, but I think it's really nice to have this relationship between back and forth, understanding the dynamic between Cancer and Capricorn, the dynamic between our fascia and our bones, our joints, the connective tissue and how it likes to be a fluid around the connective tissue and how that connects to the joints and the hard parts of our body. And this is a great way of understanding this Capricorn Cancerian axis in the body in astrological anatomy. So 2 weeks ago, I had this new class that I taught called The Spirit of Herbs, and it was freaking awesome. It was so cool. It was an all-day class that we did outside. And in the first exercise of the class, we had taught everybody in the class about the doctrine of signatures and what the patterns represent, what we're looking for. We're looking through the poetic lens of our minds, and then when we categorize them through our logical centers, not the other way around. And so I broke up the group into groups of 3. Said, all right, you 3 go find. You 3 are wearing yellow. You go find a yellow flower. Come on back in half hour. You 3 are wearing white. You go find a white flower. You 3 are wearing so and so. And then the last group, I was like, you 3, and I was kind of out of flower colors, and I was like, you're wearing green. Go find a green plant. And the purpose of this exercise was them to not know the plant, not know what they were looking at, write down things according to what they learned about the doctrine of signatures, bring it back, and just report it, like what they were seeing, and then how that they thought that this could be interpreted. And so the group that looked at, one of the groups went out there and they looked at teasel, and it wasn't in flower yet. And so it's this gnarly looking stalk. It's covered with spikes. It's just like, it's it gets really tall. And over here on the right side of the picture, you could see in the joint section between the leaves, there's like a little pool. Well, it hadn't rained for a couple of days. So why that pool is there, it's kind of interesting. Like some people speculate that the plant actually generates its own liquid, or that it somehow continues to keep it from being evaporated, and that it adds some extra enzymes, which in order to digest the insects that would fall into this plant, which would make this plant like introducing it into that realm of astrality, which is that relationship of carnivorous, working with animals. But anyway, what's undeniable is that the plant itself looks like joints. It looks like if they broke off a stalk and they could say, wow, this is hollow. Not only is it hollow when you break it, but it like cracks like a broken bone. It's like splits. And then where those joints are, there's this like synovial, it looks like a kneecap. Okay, that's really cool. They brought all this information back, and of course I know the plant, and I'm telling them like, yeah, they say, oh, I think it's good for the joints. I think it's good for connective tissue. And sure enough, that's what this plant is really, really helpful for. So before I get into explaining about that, I'll say teasel is the name. The reason why it's called teasel is because it's tease wool. This plant was used, you could see the comb of that plant, of the head of the flower, and how that would be bred back in time for teasing out wool, which is the another name for that verb of combing through the natty wool of a sheep is called carding, which is going back to cardia, cardamom. So carding, teasel, and the the person who would do that, their job title, I guess you could say, it was a fuller. So the fullers are the ones that made felt and fluffed up the fabrics. This is a fluffer. This plant is totally a fluffer. It's a fluffer for the following sign, which likes to be fluffed, the Leos, and it's definitely a fluffer for the Capricorns, Capricorn, Cancerian, fluffer axis. Okay, so what does it do? How is it fluffing? It fluffs up it also, in the same way that it unteases the wool, the same way that it unteases the wool and makes it go straight, it does the same thing for scar tissue. And so this is a plant that's really, really helpful for scar tissue. In the germ, people who are into the germ idea, they really like this plant for Lyme disease. And so, according to Lyme disease narrative, there's a insect and it's carrying a bad disease, but it's so bad, but it's not bad that it kills the insect. Actually, the insect's fine, but it goes inside it bites you, and then it gets inside you, and then the disease is so bad that it's destructive, but you can't find it. It goes and hides. It hides, but it still hurts you. And but we can't find it, and maybe you didn't even get bit by a tick or whatever in the first place. And also, people who don't have the disease have this bacteria, and that's because bacteria are pleomorphic. They change their shape and function according to the environment, just like a cymatic pattern. You could put if you put some sand on a plate, and then you put a bowstring on it, and it would resonate and would form into a particular pattern. And the same thing happens with bacteria in this environment that we call our body. They are responding to inflammation, just like a fireman responds to a fire, just like a garbage man responds to the garbage. The garbage man didn't create the fire. The garbage, the fireman didn't create the fire. The maggots didn't kill the deer. So there's no evidence that that's actually occurring. However, people are in pain. People are in pain. They have all kinds of joint issues. They have sometimes it feels like their joint on their elbow is getting sore, and then it moves down to their knee, and then it goes up to their shoulder on their other arm. What does that tell me as somebody who connects things together? Well, I think about the fascia. I think about how the fascia can get tangled up and woven up, and when you pull on the fascia on one particular area, or there's a tangle or a twist, and the fascia is like interwoven layers. So imagine like taking a basketball net and putting another basketball net inside of that basketball net, and another basketball net inside of that basketball net, and another basketball net inside of that one, and then trying to get the second basketball net that you put in there to like come out and move a little bit without getting the other ones tangled up. When children can do that pretty easily because their fascia doesn't have that stored trauma. This is structured water. This is structuring and housing traumatic emotions, traumatic injuries, scars. When there's a scar and scar tissue, there's also probably not only trauma from the injury, like a physical trauma, but there was also an emotional piece that is going on inside there too. So in other words, I work with the root of teasel to tease out the pain that is caused from fascia that a lot of people that's funny, I'm saying that while you're making nettle tea. To tease out the pain that's going on in the scar tissue and the that might be constructed as or diagnosed, I guess you could say, as Lyme disease, even though that's never been shown. Not saying that people aren't suffering, not saying that people don't have pain. It's like a detective at a scene of a crime showing up and saying, "I don't think that invisible flying Bigfoot, stole your car." Oh, okay. You're saying nobody stole my car then? No, it's just like, I think we got to find something else out. I just don't think it's that thing that you thought it is. That's, that we kind of make up and make believe. Hi, hibiscus. It's such a beautiful flower. Another one of the Malvaceae family. I guess Linden was formerly in the Malvaceae family, and then botanist got to it. And Carl Linnaeus was the guy who I was thinking of earlier. Carl Linnaeus was a botanist, and he pretty much like laid down all of the botanical names of pretty much all the Western herbs that we have now. And then botanist. I think there's two types of people in this world. There's lumpers and there's splitters. And the scientific community, the botanical scientific community of today are splitters. They really want to divide things up more and more and more. And so they took the beloved Linden out of the Malvaceae family, the marshmallow family, and then they put it in its own family, which is now the Tiliaceae or something like that. But anyway, hibiscus, still a member, still a delegate of the marshmallow family. See, I think it's funny we call it marshmallow family, Malvaceae. I think it's kind of funny because I imagine when the plants are going down to the center of the earth, to like the senate of the etheric, plant kingdom or something like that, in like some sort of like Star Wars like Senate scene or something. Their delegate is like the delegate of all of the marshmallow family would be the marshmallow. It's like it comes in with its beautiful marshmallow, and the rose family is back, like the rose, obviously. It's not going to send strawberry. It's not going to send raspberry. They're fine. They can come in a pinch if rose is out, like, on a mission or something like that. But that's what I think about. That's where my imagination goes. So if you know marshmallow and you know the virtues of marshmallow and you know that it's, sometimes we could say that it's Venusian. Sometimes we could say that it's lunar. They're both really similar, hard to discern, Venusian and lunar. But I think hibiscus is a really nice choice for Cancer, let's just say. I put marshmallow more in Libra because I think marshmallows have an affinity for the kidneys. And I also think that, it's hard to discern between that axis between what's cool and damp, like the moon, and cool and damp, like Venus. They're both, cool and damp. Hibiscus, though, that's the summertime. This is the part that's like aloha. You arrived at the beach where the crabs are and the high point of the sun. And so it definitely has a softness to it, a slight slippery softness to it. Definitely has that Venusian five-pointedness going on too, and very sensual and sexy. So I was at the shop a couple days ago, and a fella came in, large dude, and he pulls the hibiscus off the shelf. It's a big jar, like this big, and brings it up to me, and I scoop up herbs. This is what I do. How would you like? An ounce? A couple ounces? He said, fill her up. I want the whole jar. All right, buddy. Sure thing. And I love talking to people about their experiences with plants. So it's not just, a regular checkout experience. Hey, how's this working? Tell me about what's going on for you. It's always an opportunity for me to learn. And he says he started taking hibiscus tea on my recommendation 2 months ago. Okay, I don't remember that, but since then, and he started taking it because he had super high blood pressure. It was like over 170 over 90 or something like that. And he started taking it a little bit, so much, but then he started making it a really strong tea, really strong infusion, and drinking that in the morning and then drinking that at night. So twice a day is like a pretty strong infusion of hibiscus. And it brought his blood pressure down to like, I think, what did he say? 117 over 80 or something like that. Just pretty much normal. And just a couple of months. And then I said, oh, cool. Well, hibiscus is also really helpful for weight loss as well. A lot of times people will drink hibiscus tea, not only for high blood pressure, but because they have high blood pressure because of, of being overweight. And he said, yeah, in the last 2 months, I've lost 20 pounds. Wow, cool, man. He made the choice to do other things in life. He's working on his diet. He's, when people come in my door, they've already made the decision to change their life and in all these better ways. And so, of course, the herbs are there to help. And I'm not going to say hibiscus, just drink hibiscus and, keep keep up with the McDonald's and the soft drinks and everything like that, and you'll lose 20 pounds, definitely helps though. It really does. So he's happy. He was jolly. That's another thing too about, and I was telling him, I was like, are you a Cancer by chance? He's like, I don't know. Good enough. Good enough. But, Cancer, because it exalts Jupiter, and physiognomically, it's like rounder. I'm thinking about Cancer people that I know that have like this round face, rounder qualities, rounder features, not necessarily overweight, but just have like this softness to them and round quality. And because it's exalted with Jupiter, it has that ability to expand. So I would say that the sign that is the biggest sign, maybe, or capable of becoming the biggest or most overweight, is Cancer. And even if they feel comfortable in their health and in their weight, they still have that, suppleness to them. Whereas other signs, like Aries and Sagittarius and Leo, like the fire signs, if they get big, it's like damp heat. All they need to do is like some cardio for a week and it's pretty much gone. It's almost like just ignite that fire in themselves. Air signs maybe tend to hold like bloating, so just work on whatever's causing that tension, and it kind of makes the belly go away. Whereas with the Cancer and other water signs, maybe a tendency to have excess water. Well, hibiscus is in the pinch punch. It's one of the feature flavors of the Cancerian tea, which I love. I think it's super good as a cold tea. It's cold brew. It's also got coconut in it. It's also got linden in it. It's also got cardamom in it, which we also talked about. It's sour. The flavor of sour is the flavor of cooling. You don't need me to tell you that. What if you came in after shoveling snow one day in January and I was like, hey, Chance, you want some lemonade? No. Or like if you came in after like mowing the lawn, in July, I was like, hey, would you like some hot bone broth? Doesn't that sound nice right about now? No, it doesn't. It sounds disgusting. And so the flavor of sour, we intuitively know as a flavor of cooling, as a flavor of purifying. Chance says, from a psychosomatic perspective, weight is often a type of emotional armoring. And word up, I totally agree to that. Emotional and, I would also say buffering from stress and stressful frequencies. I have my own tendency to gather love handles. These love handles, and what's going on with love handles? Why would somebody have like, pretty flat stomach and the rest of the time, and kind of fit arms and everything like that, but they just have love handles? Well, it's because underneath the love handles are our kidneys, and those are the receptors for the parasympathetic or the sympathetic energy that other people are putting out at us. You could say the astrality if we're into Steiner talk, but I would just say like other people's stress, not just other people's stress that we're perceiving, but like the stress that we also are creating ourselves. And so I think that the fat that we hold on, let's just say something like the love handles, is also a stress armor, like Chance says, from buffering from how we engage with the world in a stressful way. So it's like, you know what? Our day is going to be good. We had a lot of coffee. We're going to keep drinking coffee. We're just going to pack a couple, a little bit of fat right here on the kidneys, and we'll get through our day. Everybody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to be really stressed out. And working through that particular emotional armor, by working through that a lot of times, especially in modalities like biofield tuning and other, ways of changing the narrative that we have with trauma and stress that we have in our body, it allows our body it sends the signal to our body to say, hey, it's okay. We could drop that armor. It's like the Four of Swords card, where he's like, you know what? I'm just going to put my armor down and I'm going to take a nap. I don't need to pick it up in the morning. The fight's over. And I think there really has to be that emotional narrative shift in order for that to really stick. Otherwise, we might put ourselves in, our body knows best. Nature isn't lying. Our body isn't creating fat out of nowhere. It's doing it as a response. And so by honoring that and saying, okay, I can work with my emotions from here on. Can drop that off. There's golden seal. You know what? I brought some golden seal down. This is just a tincture of golden seal. And I thought that I would best explain this by tasting it right now. Okay, so I'm going to show the camera here. This is really yellow. Look how yellow that is. Okay, I'm going to take a little. This is 30 drops or so. This is a milliliter of golden seal. Woo! Yeah, that is bitter. That is bitter. It really shakes your parasympathetic. It really does. Oh my goodness. Wow, this is a good one from Booty here. Cardamom sounds like cadmom. What do you think about the word elam, Booty? That's the botanical name, comes from that word elam. And I didn't want to put too much thought in that. I thought I'd ask the chat. Okay, golden seal. One of the most bitter plants there is. One of the most bitter plants. So freaking bitter. When I do a description of, and I'm trying to show people, I'm like, oh, this is what this plant does, and this is what this plant does. It's always best to just let the person feel for themselves. When you and I'll pass around golden seal, and I'll let them take one drop of the tincture, right, like off their hand. And when they do, it really has the same reaction with just one drop. When you taste something bitter, it makes the saliva in your mouth run. It fires up your juices, fires up the water in your body, and it changes the dynamic of your energy. It takes your energy that has been moving outwards in assessing, should I run, should I go, should I sweat, and brings it inwards and says, okay, it's time to digest. It's a reaction. It's not something that we can really overcome. It's like in the same way that, like, if you hit your knee when it's, in a 90-degree angle, it just kicks, right? It's kind of a forced reaction. So by taking bitter things, there you go, Elohim. I thought that's a good one. By taking bitter things, it actually does have a way of shifting our nervous system, bringing us into that parasympathetic state, telling our body we are preparing ourselves for food. The color of golden seal is very similar to the color of bile. Bile being it's making me burp. Just taking that golden seal, it's really stimulating my digestion. And my nose is running now too. So all of these waters and this flow is coming up here. This is why the botanical name hydra, which comes from hydro, as in watery, comes in. And in canadensis, as in it's from the northern part of this continent here. One of the things that I think is like the greatest feature of golden seal, it grows close to the ground. It's this is an herb. I don't know if it's endangered yet, but it's like getting close, whatever they call it, to be watched, something like that. Watch out. Don't over harvest it. The deer like it. It grows in old growth forests. Those places are falling away. Get yours cultivated. I get mine from Missouri. There's a farmer in Missouri I get mine from. And I really appreciate this golden seal. One of the things that makes golden seal an herb of cancer, not only the lunar, flower and the way that it smells good at nighttime, but it is a plant that is a tropho-restorative to the mucosal tissues, specifically in the stomach. So this is a specific herb for ulcers and it kills H. pylori. It kills the bacteria that causes ulcers. No, H. pylori is there. It's that H. pylori has a function in the ulcer, and that is to help, reshape and discard necrotic tissue. That's what the H. pylori is doing. And golden seal will help reduce the need for our body to create an environment that is hospitable for H. pylori because it's improving the fluids, the fluid dynamics. It's improving when you have more gastric fluid, you have more gastrin, which is the protective coating around the inside of the stomach. So remember I was saying before, if we didn't have that Cancerian rule of the stomach, then all of our acid would come out, and that would be really painful. Might even melt. And that's what happens. That's what it kind of feels like with maybe heartburn and even ulcers, bleeding ulcers. My favorite plant for bleeding ulcers, this is a knockout. This is a knockout, is cayenne pepper. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but cayenne pepper is the thing that gets them to stop bleeding, stop hurting, and the thing that restores the function and the or what we call tropho-restorative. It restores the function of the mucosal membranes back to where it was before. It restores the environment. Golden seal does that. A lot of people like golden seal for the berberine that's in it, and berberine, again, in the germ marketing world is, antiseptic, blah, blah, blah. How is it antiseptic if germs are bad? Well, what it does is, in addition to it being really bitter, it's also incredibly astringent. In other words, it like pulls the tissues together in my mouth, makes them feel tighter. And I know that by taking that a few minutes ago, I could already feel it. Like my stomach feels like tone and tight. So it's pulling things together. So if you have tissues that are firm, they make it so that things can't adhere to it. That's just the bottom line of how something can be antimicrobial and not necessarily against life. And that's why we need help. Us vitalists need help trying to figure out ways to describe something that's antimicrobial. I almost think about calling it pro-microbial because I think that's a better way of describing it. Berberine tightens up the junctions between the cells and it makes the tissues tighter. And then here's a little known use for golden seal, which I think is really effective, is that it's really helpful for damaged spinal discs that are herniating, and discs that are like if the disc is like, it's supposed to be like firm and tight and also like capable and resisting like the shocks between the spinal bones themselves, the lumbar. And for whatever reason, sometimes the disc like herniates out, it like squeezes out. It's like popping a balloon, and the balloon just kind of keeps coming out in that one spot, and then it becomes like kind of herniated. I don't know if it's because it's like the green speak in it, like it seals it and it's gold. And I also imagine those things, that tissue between the lumbar as being kind of like yellowish, but it's really, really helpful for that. A lot of people are really in need of something for that, and then body work is excellent and whatnot. They don't want to do the surgery. And so here's what I recommend. Like a golden seal internally as a tincture, put it in some water. You don't have to punish yourself. I'm an herbalist, so I appreciate the flavor of bitter. Not everybody does. And then a golden seal salve, which is kind of punitive because it stains all of your clothes yellow. So make sure you get some golden seal clothes. Buddha Yoga says exactly, the ulcer is from alcohol, stress, etc. Yep. I think stress is a huge component, and a lot of times when people are dealing with ulcers, it's just a matter of asking them, have you noticed a pattern? And that's typically it. All right, moving on. We're close to the end here. Elecampane. Back in this time last year, over on the Innerverse channel, you could look at Herbalism. There's a tab that he has on the Innerverse YouTube channel. We got all the signs. We go through with a lot of the green speak and the tarot. It's really fun. I thought I'd bring back, because I wanted to talk about some herbs that I hadn't covered. However, this one was covered in that. And with elecampane as an herb for cancer, is to me, it's I like to think about where the herb is in the sign of Cancer too. So to me, lemon balm is right away because it's a mint, and it's like right next to Gemini, so it's in the first, decan of Cancer, and then the Cancer of Cancer is aloe and a lot of those other watery plants. And then now as we're getting closer to Leo and moving down into this digestive area of the Mazzaroth, moving into our heart center, I see the solar qualities combining with the lunar qualities in this plant. The Elecampane, whenever you see, it's got these massive leaves. They're huge. They're huge. They're like the size of my chest. Okay, whenever you see a big old leaf, think surface area. That's what it's saying, surface area. So what's surface area in our body? Surface area is our lungs, because it's like a really big organ. It's taking in it wants to have a lot of surface frontage for capturing the electrical potential of oxygen and enriching our blood with the electricity that's in the ether. And also the skin. So that's our other solar panel, which is more, that's more of that Leo aspect. On the underside, this is the underside of the leaf, and it definitely has more of this lunar, white, moon-kissed vibe, whereas the upper part of the flower is that sunflower look. And so anyway, this is a great plant for the lungs, one of the best plants for lungs. I always think about Elecampane as a fantastic mucus buster. It's the root of the plant that we use, and it's got a crazy flavor. It's really aromatic. It's really bitter. Plants that are aromatic and bitter are really odd. They always, the flavor of bitter puts us into that parasympathetic phase, and rest and digest. The flavor of aromatic stimulates our body. So when you have something that's stimulating and relaxing and working together in your body, it really tones that dial between parasympathetic and sympathetic, which is really important when working through illness, because a lot of times people's body can feel like habitually stimulated, and that's when things like autoimmune and allergies and things like that are more present, because there's that lack of tone between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, or we could say the astrality and the mental phase, if we're talking with Steiner and the boys in Austria. Okay, so anyway, it's a great mucus buster. I love how it brings up mucus. It's especially indicated for green or yellow mucus, just like the picture looks right here. So you ever have green or yellow mucus? Oh, I thought green mucus meant that you have like a virus, and a yellow mucus meant you have bacteria infection. No, it's degrees of vitality, of the vitality of your body's detoxification. So the more yellow, the more vital your more vitality your body is putting into this, fighting this infection. It's more set in, I guess you could say. And or I should say, when I say infection, I should say detoxification. And green needs a little bit boost of that vitality, so warm it up again. So whenever I see green or yellow mucus, I think about Elecampane. It's in my famous nail in my coffin cough syrup. Now, here's something that I love about Elecampane, and as it pertains to cancer, aside from the lungs, also aside from the stomach, by the way, which I haven't covered yet. I'll tell you now. Inula helenium refers to, it's really high in inulin, which is something that is the food of the microbiome. Like inulin is the stuff that our inner bacteria, they like to eat, and it's good for the environment. It's a non-digestible fiber. This plant is really high in that, so it's like fertilizer for our gut. And it's especially important for people who have a lot of mucus and they're swallowing it, and it's causing like an illness that goes from like the feeling of respiratory into the feeling of digestive, like let's just say digestive cold or something like that. And that's because they're swallowing a lot of their mucus. Maybe they're swallowing a lot of it because their reflexes for coughing and expelling it are not completed in the case of like children or elderly. Maybe they're swallowing a lot of it because it's a bad habit to spit it, maybe they consider. or maybe it's just that's just the reflex that they're doing, you know. In any case, or it's, you know, that's just how it's going for them. In any case, this would be helpful for breaking up the mucus in the stomach too, which is the primary principle of Samuel Thompson's vitalism, which is an old. I won't even get into it, but let's just say the American, the preeminent colonial American vitalist. His name is Samuel Thompson, and his first principle was get rid of the mucus in the stomach. And so anyway, what I like about this plant though is Helenium. Helenium is Helen. Helen, where'd you go? Helen, come back. Helen, who's Helen? Helen of Troy. She was abducted. They stole her. They took her away. Let's go to war. Helen's like, maybe I went willingly. So yeah. Anyway, when Helen's gone, she goes away, and as she left, whether she left willingly or she was abducted, she was sad and she cried. And where she cried, her tears fell down to the earth, into the field, the campagna, and where those tears hit the earth, they bloomed into these flowers. So we have Helen, the campaign for Helen, the campaign to go get her back. The campagna is the field also. Ella campaign. This is a specific remedy for someone who feels like a foreigner. They feel like they have a hard time connecting with people because they left their land and now they're in a new land, and especially women. My wife is an immigrant. She came here from another country. I think about her in this example. We have different customs. We have different language. We have, different TV shows that we watched growing up, so on. It's kind of hard to connect. And when that's the case, there's this emotional weight that's put on in the chest. It almost feels like a frog in the throat, like you can't get it out. This is the remedy for that. In those cases, when I'm talking about like spiritual remedies, we could work with a flower essence, which is beautiful. We can just work with meditating on the plant or sitting next to it. Or, if we're taking a tincture or something like that, just a drop of the tincture, or even carrying it with us. That's another way of working with this too. It helps with dispelling the grief that comes with being a foreigner and not being able to speak. And that campaign. Cool. All right, last plant. Yasmina. I don't have much to say about this one. I just think it's definitely a plant of Cancer. I mean, I'm recalling a time I was in Italy, playing music sometime within the last decade, on tour. We were at this festival. It was around this time of year. It was around this time of day. Sun's going down. We were opening for the Dictators. It's a pretty big band. Ever heard of them? Yeah, the Dictators, classic punk rock band from the 1980s in New York City. And so we're opening up for this band, and there's a stage, and all around the stage is this hedgerow, which of course, I'm thinking about the Cancerian, Capricornian axis whenever I think about hedgerows. And this hedgerow is in bloom, and it just turns into this most aromatic, sensual experience that I cannot forget. And that's because jasmine, when it's nighttime, it's when it releases its scent. It likes to release its scent because it's the littler buds that have the most scent, and those come out when it's not so hot out. And so these are all, when understanding the doctrine of signatures, when understanding the relationship between nature and form and function, we find that would be definitely a scent of the moon. When Booty says black cohosh is my favorite scent. This is very similar, really, really similar to that. Jasmine. Yeah. I make an incense, and I put some Absolute, which is not an essential oil. It's like basically a tincture of jasmine flowers that has been evaporated, and all it's left is like this kind of goo. And I use that as a ingredient for an incense that I make that's called Via Giardino, which is the name of the street that my wife's house is on in Italy. Via Giardino, which means Garden Street. Thanks for listening in, y'all. It's been fun to talk about plants. I got some cancer remedies here. This is the sun-kissed hydrating mist I was talking about. I got a couple of these cancer box sets left. There's this cancer incense, which is notably awesome. It's got orris root, another plant that we could have talked about tonight. It's from the iris family. It's the root of this iris, and it smells very much like violet flowers. And it also has some rose and peonies in there too, and sandalwood, which I think is a great all-purpose incense smell. There's some after sun oil, which was really popular when I made it a long time ago, and thought I'd bring it back for this box set. It's got calendula and linden infused, and into rosehip oil. Oh yeah, it's very fancy. Very fancy. I got these cool zines in all my boxes. I make these little zines that they talk about the herbs a little bit, have some cool art. Oh my gosh, I didn't bring it down. But I'll have to show it on the next one. I made this zine, Astro Aromatic zine, which has got some super cool art. And I'm really proud of it. I sent one over to you, Chance. So you should get that soon. And this Pinch Punch. And thanks, y'all. And really appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Thanks for learning about the herbs of cancer. Thanks for listening to me. And until next time, ciao.